people think. Today we are going to see about node interview questions. Let's proceed with the first question. It is a language, but it is just an environment. It is a JavaScript runtime environment. If you take a node, if you take in browser, we have a JavaScript engine embedded in the browser. Okay, and each browsers have their own JavaScript engine. And they name it in their own name. Maybe Chrome it is called as V8, Firefox it is called as SpiderMonkey. So the JavaScript, the Chrome JavaScript engine which is used in Chrome is called V8. The V8 engine actually they moved to the server side inside a C++ program. So this C++ program is called Node. So this environment. So only we call Node as a JavaScript runtime environment. If you want to see the definition, it is a open source cross-platform JavaScript environment that executes JavaScript outside of your browser. And if you take it is a Chrome C V8 to the server side with added C and C++ components. Okay, and it is event driven and non-blocking IO. This is all because of JavaScript. Because JavaScript internally the node has the JavaScript engine. Because of that, we are getting event driven programming and non-blocking IO. Okay, and it is a very high performance and scalable solution for server side. So is Node a language? No, it is not a language. It is just an environment. Okay. Node is to be installed because I have this question because JavaScript we never used to install, right? It already came with a browser. Once you download the browser, JavaScript engine is embedded inside the browser. So there was never a situation for you to download JavaScript. But in case of Node, it is a JavaScript on the server side. You have to download the node for using this node. You have to download it from that site. Just in your Google, if you put node download, Node.js download for Windows or any OS, you can take it. Once you download, that node will be available on the server side. Since in the front end, it is already came with the browser. JavaScript came with the browser. You never installed JavaScript separately. But in case of server side, for executing JavaScript, you need Node. You need that environment which has to be installed. Yes, it has to be installed. Okay. So explain the architecture of Node. If you see the architecture of Node, Node is nothing but the V8 engine. Okay, with all the C++ libraries. Okay, you have some built-in modules. We'll be seeing that in another question. So these all are built-in modules, and we have some C++ libraries, and these two combined is called Node. So this application module JS is our code basically. Okay, and libuv is one of the important C++ library for implementing asynchronous in Node. Okay, so this is the architecture. So libuv, as I told you, it is a C library which is responsible for implementing all the asynchronous features. Okay, and you have bindings for JavaScript and the C libraries to talk with each other. And you also have add-ons for providing a interface between JavaScript and C libraries. Okay, so others are just C libraries which are all built-in modules. Okay. What does asynchronous in Node? Who does asynchronous in Node? As I told you, libuv is responsible for asynchronous handling in Node. All the asynchronous functionality like event loop is taken care by libuv. All the asynchronous task is actually provided to libuv, and libuv has its internal thread of 4 pools which takes care of using those threads. It takes care of asynchronous activities. Once they are done, they are put into the queue, and the JavaScript engine takes it to the stack whenever it is free. So this it has a maximum of 4 threads for doing asynchronous operation, and this can also be configured. You have to understand that JavaScript, you would have heard JavaScript is single threaded, and here I am saying libviv has 4 threads. You should not get confused. The JavaScript, for running JavaScript, you have only one thread. For whatever you write, right, the JavaScript code you write, for running that you have only a single thread. But for doing asynchronous operation, libviv has an internal 4 threads. That is different. But for JavaScript, we have only a single thread. That's why we need asynchronous in JavaScript. Okay. What is meant by non-blocking in JavaScript? Non-blocking, why it is needed? First, why you need non-blocking? This is the answer is JavaScript has a single thread. You should not block the thread for any reason. If you block the thread, the user the in the server side, it can't cater to any needs of the front end. Maybe from the front end I am getting a API call, the node cannot give response to that. This will happen. That's why it has only a single thread. So JavaScript is sent to be non-blocking. So all the blocking events you are supposed to give it to the third party stuff and continue. You should never block the thread for any reason. Okay. So in Node, all the network operations are asynchronous. Okay, but you have certain modules where you can do blocking calls. But if you block the thread, and the node cannot cater to any of the API request. So it will be keep on rotating in the front end, and the front end will never get the reply until the node has completed its task. Okay, understand? So that is meant by non-blocking. It is the node is primarily said to be non-blocking because it is written in a way that it is non-blocking. It never gets blocked. If you write any code blocking JavaScript, it is wrong actually. So what is event-driven programming in JavaScript? So in Node actually, in the all the events, right, gets into a queue. Okay, and the event loop handles them. And when the stack is free, the event on each event is taken by the event handler to perform. Okay, all the maybe many events, if it gets triggered, all the events are put into a queue, and via event loop, one by one is taken to be performed. Whenever the events gets emitted, it will get performed by the event handlers. Okay, let's move on to the next question. EventEmitters.emit is synchronous or asynchronous? EventEmitters.emit is synchronous. Can show you an example for that. Let me go to my VS Code. Here I have a example. Okay, right here you can see that. So event emitters are used for creating events in JavaScript. Okay, you have to require events, and events.eventEmitter. You will get event emitter, and using event emitter you can emit events. Okay, for and you can, for each event you can listen on those events. You can add event handlers. Maybe whenever the event gets raised, I can add event handlers. So event emitter dot on screen, you call this event emitter dot on screen, this one, call this event handler. So for the right now what I have done is, for a single event I am added 3 event handlers, and I am calling those event handlers whenever this events gets created. Okay, so if I have something here, right, I have just for proving that it is synchronous, I just added a method called console.log hello. Okay, whenever this emits, right, this will be called, then only the log hello will be printed. You can see that. So this proves that the emit never goes inside event loop. Once you emit, all the event handlers are called instantly. It never goes inside event loop and gets called. If it goes inside event loop, then this will be printed first and then all our events. Okay. So if I run this, you can see this example. So you can see here all the event handlers gets printed and then only your console log gets printed. I hear the scream 1, 2, all gets printed and then only your event handlers are getting printed. Okay. So this proves that EventEmitters.emit is synchronous. Okay. It is synchronous. And what is difference between event and callbacks? So callbacks you would have seen in set time mode, right? Once the time is elapsed, I want to do a function. I want to want JavaScript to call a function. But events, when you emit, all the event handlers will be called and run, right? So what are the differences? Basic differences. Event.emit is synchronous, but callbacks are asynchronous. I can prove that with the example here. So consider I have a function, okay? I have my event handler 1, 2, and many things, okay? And this is what the same example. Let me also add a set time mode, okay? So basically, this is a callback. Let me also let it be having 0 milliseconds. And after set time mode, I have a for loop, okay? So you can see that the emit will happen instantly as I showed you. And after that only everything, even the for loop and set time mode will run. But set time mode callback, right? This time mode will get printed once everything else is completed because this uh, function goes inside a event loop and it will be taken to the stack only when the JavaScript engine is free. The JavaScript engine is free, will be free only after executing all the synchronous tasks like this one, and all that. Then only it will be free that time. So let me print and show you. So now what we expecting is whatever I try to do with using callback will be last, but event emitters will run instantly once you emit. So you can see it is timeout is last, but as we saw earlier, this will be the emitters will be the first one because they get run instantly when the event gets emitted, and after that we have the for loop which prints hello. Okay, you can see that we are just trying to print hello. So this proves that event.emit is synchronous but callbacks are asynchronous. So other thing you need to understand is the emitters can also be made asynchronous by using time tick and many other. There's a way to convert them as asynchronous as well. Okay. Types of API function in Node.js, we have synchronous and asynchronous function. Blocking and non-blocking. That is asynchronous and synchronous function. So network IO or all the API what the node receives is all non-blocking, but the disk IO there is a possibility to create blocking as well. Like I want to read the file system, but I am blocking the thread so that nothing else happens before this is ended. So that time there is a method called read files is synchronous, which will block the thread. At that time, the node will not do anything else, like catering to the request from the front end. Nothing it will do. So when we have to go for synchronous and when to asynchronous. rule of thumb is to always go for asynchronous, but synchronous APIs can be used in case of some initialization service. Like my server will not run until this configuration is read. So at that time you can go for read file synchronous, so that I complete that reading that file before starting the server. So in those cases you can go for synchronous APIs, but for network and all, network and all, you need to go for asynchronous as must. And simple tools, node tools which does not need network request, you can also go for synchronous APIs. For all others you have to go for asynchronous APIs. How many threads in Node.js? It has a single thread because it has a JavaScript internally, so it has only a single thread for executing your JavaScript. Okay, but libuv, which handles all the asynchronous operations, has 4 threads internally. Don't confuse that with this. But just for understanding, Node.js will have a single thread only. So we are make supposed to write in such a way that we never block the thread. If you block, as I told you, no, it will never be able to cater to the response of the front end. Okay, where node is not very useful. Node is not very useful in cases of application which needs so much CPU intensive, like games, which is very CPU intensive, right? Which will completely block the thread. So it is not very useful in those cases. So all the CPU intensive tasks, your node is not very useful. Okay. So all for what the threads was implemented to take CPU intensive task in Node.js. Okay. It was just introduced in Node. It is for taking up the we can't do the CPU intensive task in the main thread, so we can assign those CPU intensive tasks to the worker thread. So it is like threads without shared memory. So let me show you an example of worker threads. So this is how you create a worker thread, new worker, and the task you want the worker thread to do. Okay, you just require worker threads and you post a message. Whenever it receives this message, whenever it receives the message, it is replying to the parent port this message. Okay, so this worker thread, the main thread will post message ping, which will go to this message. Okay, and the message will be received here. So the response will be pong ping, which will be printed by this one, the worker on message, which will be received by the parent thread. Whatever the message is sent from the child, what's the thread, it will be received by the parent thread. If I want to run this, I can simply say node worker thread. So you can see that message which got printed because of this console log dot message, and it was sent from this worker thread pong. The ping is sent from the parent thread to the worker thread. So it message got ping, so it is able to print pong ping. Okay, let me go to the next question. What all are the built-in modules in Node? So built-in modules in Node is modules which you need not install. It is already available in Node. You just can require and use it. Okay, all the built-in modules are assert modules, buffer modules, child process, cluster, crypto, DNS, domain, events, FS for reading file systems, and which you use HTTP for acting as HTTP server, and HTTPS server, HTTP, net OS. OS is for knowing the OS information, and path for knowing the path. Okay, Punicode, query stream, readline, streams for handling streams, and timers for set time or set interval, and all those. TLS, TTY, URL, util, v8, vm, and zlib. All these are built-in modules. You can just use require and use them. Okay. Difference between JavaScript and Node. Actually, both cannot be compared. Node is an environment with JavaScript engine inside. Okay. So Node has a dependency on JavaScript. So they can't be compared. But people think Node is a separate language. No, it is not a separate language. Node is just an environment which has JavaScript engine which executes JavaScript. Okay. Node versus AngularJS. Node is a backend for writing backend application. AngularJS is a JavaScript library for writing front-end applications, right? Both are both are this is a library. The AngularJS is a library written in JavaScript for front-end. Node is not a library or anything. It is an environment where the JavaScript engine is present. Okay, understand the difference? So it streams in Node. So streams are the way of handling streaming data. Something somewhere the data is keep on streaming. You want to receive that stream. So you can use stream module for that, which is one of the built-in module in Node. So for reading readable stream, you can use readable. You have four types of stream: readable, writable, duplex, and transform stream. Okay, and these all are events which gets triggered for each event which is happening. So stream is a emitter and it throws different events, basically data, end, error, finish. So these different events are thrown at different points. Like when the data is completed loading the data from the file, you will have finish. Or if this encoded error, you will have error event, and you will have data end. The end is when it has finished reading from the file. Data is what the data which it read from the file. So these, if you want, you can listen to this events and add event handlers to them. Okay. So let me show you an example for readable stream. So this is a readable stream. Okay. So what I'm doing is create a readable stream for input.txt file. Let me open that. So this is a using fs, which is a built-in module. I'm creating a readable stream from input.txt and setting the encoding. So once you create a readable stream, it will start emitting events because readable stream is a event emitter. Start emitting events. So I can listen to those events by writing readable stream dot on. So once the data is received, read from the input, the stream, that is the input.txt, that data will come to chunk and I can save that chunk to the data. And once it has ended, I can print the data. Once I get an error, I can print the error. So let me, so this is an example of readable stream. So I can use fs.create readable stream for that. So if I do this, so it is throwing error, the input.txt file is not present. So let me create a file now, input.txt. So let me have some dummy data here. So let me run it again. So now you can see the data getting printed. Okay. So the data is getting printed from this on end, on end. That's why it is getting printed. We didn't get any error. So we have not seen any error, and program ended would have done before. Okay. Okay, fine. Hope you understood the readable streams. So this is how similarly writable stream will also work. If you want to write some data into your file, you can use writable stream, and you can put in the data into writable stream. So what are globals in Node? So without even importing what all you can access in Node, that is globals in Node. So in browser you would have seen window variable, right? Likewise, we also have a global here. Okay, in Node, if you take, you have something to call, if I print this global, you will see the global thing. So like a window in browser, we have global where we have all the global entities, global things available for Node. So if I create something, right, uh, a variable in the global context, it will get saved to the global. So you can see that a got 10 got added here. So everything which is available in the global will get added to the global. So you can actually do clear interval directly. You need not import anything to use this. Likewise, you can also use it using global dot clear interval. Okay. Pardon me. It is okay. So globals are something without even importing, you can use all those. Okay, that is meaning of global. So you can use directory, file name, global, console, process, buffer, set immediate. All this can be used even without importing them. I can show you the example for this. I think it is. So these we can see that once you add a thing in a global context, you will be able to print it even inside global. And this process and all, you can see I have never imported, but I can directly use process, the the PIDs of process, and the file name which is currently executing, and the directory name which we are in present. So all this can be used without even importing. So these are called as globals. Like a window in browser, you have global here. Okay, all this set timeout, clear timeout is all part of global. So you can easily use all this without even importing them. So now if you go and execute this, you will be able to see that. So you can see all the current file that is came out of this one, right? File name, directory name, process.pid, and all this. Then I'm just printing the PID and globals, which all would be print out and saw, right? So global is this one. Okay, whichever is present in global, you can directly use it because it is a implicit global in case of Node. Okay, so let me go to the next question. So explain the concept of asynchronous. Asynchronous is By definition is, if you see, it is something which you don't know when it will return. Okay, like a call to the server, which we don't know when it will return, right? So all this type of events you can't bring it to the main thread. If you bring it to the main thread, you have to block the thread for that certain amount of time till it returns, that function returns, the like the call to the server returns. So these type of things should be handled properly. That's why we have asynchronous way of handling, that is through promises, callbacks, or observable. So this concept is called as asynchronous. This asynchronous becomes very important in Node because the JavaScript, if you basically see, it is a single threaded. Okay, you are not supposed to block the thread at any point of time. Okay, in other languages you can actually create threads, but in JavaScript it is not possible. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So explain event loop. Okay, so event loop, any asynchronous operation in JavaScript will pass through event loop. So this is of the main concept which through which any asynchronous operation happens. Okay, a simple set timeout will pass through event loop. So let's understand what is event loop. Okay, let's go to a simple example. Okay, so we have a single stack because we have a single thread. So right here I have three console logs: event 1, event 2, and event 3. So try to guess what will be the first, second, and third. So this one will be the first, as everybody knows. This other thing you need to understand, this in set timeout callback I have given 0. Okay, okay, and when the set timeout comes, actually, uh, the callback. Do you think the callback will execute instantly? No, it goes to the browser API. Okay, because set timeout is a browser function. Window.setTimeout, right? It goes to the Windows. The JavaScript sends this set timeout to the browser API and proceeds to the next statement. It even not looks at the time because it is not its task. It just sees a set timeout, understand that it is a browser API, and it does not know when this function will return. So seeing it as a asynchronous function, it gives to the browser API and proceeds with the next statement, which is console.log event3, and it will run. And the browser, right, it has its own thread and everything, executes this, waits till the time is elapsed. It sees that 0 time is elapsed. Once the time elapses, it moves the callback to the queue. Here you have to understand it not does not move the callback to the stack immediately. It just moves to the queue, and the JavaScript will take from the queue to the stack only when the JavaScript is free to take. If after event 3, if there are any other asynchronous operations, synchronous operations, it will all, if you, for instance, if you have a for loop, only after all the for loop executes, this callback will be taken from the JavaScript engine from the queue to the stack and executed. So here you can see a loop, kind of a loop. So that's why it is called as event loop. Hope you understood what is the concept. This is one of the main concepts which makes Node faster because there is no waiting. It keeps on doing the task. Whatever it thinks it will take time and it does not know when it will return, it moves to the third party APIs and continues with the task. Okay. And that's why it is said that you should not have so much CPU intensive tasks in the stack. It will just slow down your process actually. So this is how all the asynchronous tasks moves through in Node or JavaScript. Okay, hope you understood what is Why Node is said to be compared to other backend technologies like Java? The simple reason is event loop, because the single thread has the complete memory, right? Here, in case of Java, each thread you allocate memory. Maybe you have 3 or 4 threads and you allocate, but this single thread has the complete power or the complete memory, and it does the task so fast. Whatever it finds asynchronous, it will move to the event loop and proceeds so fast. So said a node is said to be faster when compared to other languages. So what is callback? If you want to explain callback in JavaScript, so let me go to my VS Code. Okay, let me open this. So callbacks are nothing but, right? In Java, the function can be sent as a parameter to another function, because in JavaScript, functions are first class objects. They used to call functions as, if you take functions, right? They are called as first class objects, and you can, because function is an object in JavaScript, so you can pass functions as parameters to another function. The functions which are sent as parameter to another functions are called as callbacks. So you have to understand this. So if you want to understand, so by means of functions, what we give to another function, we are given some work to another function. So that we don't know when that function will complete its work. So I give the work it has to do after completing the work as a function to another function. Once it completes its work, it will put this function into the queue, and I will take that function when I have time. So there is no waiting in this way, right? So instead of waiting for that function to return and then doing the task in the main thread, what I do is, I whatever I want to do after the work is completed by that function, I give it to that function. That function, once it has completed work, will put that function into the queue, and which I will take it from the queue to start through event loop. So you can take the example of set timeout. This is the task which I want to do after 1000 milliseconds. Okay. So what I will do, I'm just giving the task it has to do after 1000 milliseconds to the browser API function. That function, once the time has elapsed, will put this function, the task, into the queue. Okay. And I will take from the queue when I'm free to take. So this is about callbacks. Hope you understood. Okay. So without callbacks, what will happen is you have to wait in the current thread for the function to return. So which will make it blocking. Okay, blocking the main thread. Let's proceed with the next question. So explain promise. Basically, callback, if you take, had some issues. Okay, because if you take if you have heard of callback hill, if you want to make a call based on the output from another callback, you have to make it nested like this. Based on the story, I want to do another call, and based on the chapter, I want to do another call. It will make it nested calls. And in this case, it makes very tough to maintain the code. Okay, maintainability goes for a toss, and it is also not easily possible to handle the errors. And we are mixing the input and output, so that's also becomes a issue. So to handle all this, promise came after callback to handle asynchronous things in JavaScript, asynchronous task in JavaScript. If you take a promise, as the word implies, promise is like a promise to the JavaScript engine that I do not have the value now, but I will get the value soon. Okay, so here this is the syntax of promise. Okay, new promise, and we are supposed to write the asynchronous task inside the new promise. Okay, we write all the asynchronous tasks inside the new promise. And other thing you need to understand is the promise has three states: pending state, fulfill state, and rejected state. Pending state is when the promise is created. The fulfill state is once the promise gets a value, when it gets resolved, that's when it moves to fulfill state. And rejected is when the promise gets into error. Okay, so let me take this example. Here I have put my asynchronous task is set timeout. Once the this promise, right, this is a callback function. If you take this is a callback function, the promise, the first parameter is a callback function. That callback function receives two parameters: resolve and reject. Once your asynchronous task is completed, you can call resolve, the first parameter, or if you think the asynchronous call got rejected, you can call reject. So in my case, once the set timeout is completed, then only this callback will be executed, right? So once it goes inside, I will say resolve success. So this can be any word. You can have it as resolve 1 1 2 2, whatever. So once the set timeout is completed, it moves into event loop. The callback moves into the queue, and queue is taken by the from the queue. This callback is taken to the stack by the JavaScript engine. It will come here, right? So once it comes here, I say, okay, my set timeout function is completed. So I will resolve. So once I resolve, this promise will be moved to the fulfill state. And I have to write the event handlers. I write event handlers by using then. Okay, the first function is a event handler for fulfill case. And the second parameter to that function to the then. The then has two parameters. The first callback is for fulfilled state, and second callback is for error state. So once the promise moves to resolve state, this function will be called. And from here you can also send the parameter. Here I am passing success11, so it will be received in the value, and that will be printed here. Promise fulfill and success11. If it gets rejected here, the promise rejected value will be printed. Okay, so let me execute this and show you. So now we are expecting promise fulfilled and success11, which is returned from, which is sent from here. Okay, let me see that. Let me do that. Now you can see the promise fulfill gets called. Success11 gets printed. If you have it as rejected here, if instead of solve, if I send reject, if I reject the promise, it will move to the rejected state. So the second callback in the then will be called. So promise rejected will be printed. You can see that promise rejected will be printed. Okay, hope you understood. Okay, here if you see, this one will be completed, not resolved. It will just run and return the promise object, which will be in pending state. You can see it here, right? Promise pending. It will just run, but it will not have the value because this set timeout goes through the event loop, and then only this callback will be called. So at that time, it will just run it and return it. At that point, the promise object will be pending state, and this will be executed. Once fulfilled and everything, you can see whatever you are doing here will get executed. After it becomes resolved, this event handlers will be called based on resolve or reject. Okay, let me move to the next question. So how to handle asynchronous is Node? You can handle it in three ways: no callback, promises, next way, and observables. That is the furthermore improvement over promises, observables. Okay, which is from RxJS. What is meant by NPM? NPM is Node Package Manager. Okay, if you do any application in Node, you need to maintain the packages like Maven in Java. So the packages are maintained by NPM. So for initializing your project, your application for NPM, you have to just give NPM init. That will initialize and create the package.json in your folder, which will be the package.json basically will have all the packages for this application with the versions, so that when you send it to the client, you need not install the libraries and send it. You can just send the packages and ask them to do npm install, so that from the npm will use the package.json, which will have all the packages and versions, and it will install the packages for them. Okay, so this is meant by npm. It is nothing but node package manager. And from this npm is also a repository. If you want to install anything from this repository, you can do npm install the package name you want. It is one of the biggest repository. If you go to npm site, you can see this. If you go to the npm site, you can see this is one of the biggest repository from where you can also install the packages, all the open source packages. Okay, it has around 10,000 packages. You can download it. Rather than writing everything on your own, you can use the open source packages. Okay, so how to make your application work with npm is you just need to run npm init for that to work. Okay, npm init, I can show you that. Let me create a folder. I will move inside a node. So let me create a folder. Maybe sample, something like that. So let me go inside sample now, and let me do npm init. This will initialize the application with npm. If I open this folder, right, you can see the package.json created. Once you do npm init, it will initialize your folder with npm, so that once you start installing any application, it will get added as a dependency here in package.json. We'll also open this in VS Code so that we are able to see that. Okay, this is what it happens. Now when you install any application inside this, it will get added here. Maybe I do npm install express or tsc. That will be added as a dependency inside this package. So you can see that the library got added inside node modules, and it got added as a dependency here. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So how we manage packages in Node is using npm Node Package Manager, which once you download Node in your Windows, the npm comes with it. You need not go separately for npm. npm comes with it. Okay. So package.json, as I told you, it is used for managing your packages, which will have all the dependencies for this application, which the npm will use for installing the packages. Once you give it to your client, he can just do npm install, and using the package.json node, the npm will install all the packages. Okay. So you can actually install the package globally or locally. Okay. Globally is by giving -g. You can give -g. If you give -g, it will install tsc globally. Okay. That is throughout your computer, anywhere you can use tsc. But when you do save, it will save it locally to your folder. Okay. Locally to a folder. So it will be available only inside the node modules in your folder. But if you give -g, it will actually install it in the program files node module, so that it will be available everywhere. Anywhere you can use tsc. Okay, understood? Locally and globally. Okay. So these are the questions. Okay. What is a dependency versus dev dependency? See, in Node, right, you have two types of dependency. One can be dependency, main dependency, or dev dependency. Dev dependency are dependencies which are needed only for development. It is not needed when it is given to the client. Okay, like TypeScript, which is a dependency only for development, not for a client. Is not going to do we are not going to use TypeScript packages in production for converting to TypeScript to JavaScript, because the client uses only JavaScript because he directly works with the browser. Okay, there is no need for, because he's not going to edit the files. Okay, so the JavaScript is enough for him. So you can actually do that by using save dev. Instead of save means it will be added as a dependency. If you give save dev, it will be installed as a dev dependency. Okay, if you give like this, tsc will be added as a dev dependency, not as a dependency anymore. It will be added as a dev dependency. Okay, see you in the next set of questions. Thank you.